Hey everyone, it's Danielle, welcoming you back to another Califaces video. In the 1990s, California saw a disturbing increase in the number of kids committing murder. In 1994, 250 juveniles under the age of 15 were in juvenile detention centers for murder. This increase was shown to be closely related to California's gang violence. So in 1995, a new state law went into effect that lowered the age a minor can be tried as an adult from 16 to 14. Tony Hicks became the first person to be tried and convicted under the new state law. But no one could have predicted what would happen next. Tony Hicks was born in Los Angeles, California. He spent the first 8 years of his life living in a South LA neighborhood that had been overrun by gangs. After witnessing his older cousin killed by a rival gang member, Tony's mother decided that for his safety, it was best that he went to live with his grandfather, Ples Felix, in San Diego, a city 2 hours south of Los Angeles. Tony's first few years in the North Park neighborhood of San Diego looked promising. He and his grandfather were close, and Tony did well in school. But by the 7th grade, things began to change. Tony stopped going to school, stopped coming home, and no longer followed his grandfather's rules. Tony started hanging out with a new group of friends, a gang who called themselves the Black Mob, and Tony took on the street name Bones. On January 21st, 1995, Tony and his Black Mob gang spent the day at a friend's apartment complex, drinking and smoking weed. Later in the night, they all put together a plan to call a local Italian restaurant, order a pizza, and then rob the delivery driver. The teens ordered the pizza to be delivered to an apartment that didn't exist. The oldest of the crew, 18-year-old Antoine Pittman, gave 14-year-old Tony a loaded, stolen 9mm pistol, and then the 4 teens waited for the delivery driver to arrive. The delivery driver was Tariq Kamisa, a 20-year-old college student at San Diego State University. When Tariq arrived to deliver the pizza, as planned, he couldn't find the apartment. After knocking on a couple of doors, he gave up and went back to his car, where the 4 teenagers were waiting for him. Tony pointed the gun at Tariq and ordered him to give them the money and the pizza. Tariq refused and turned towards his car. 18-year-old Antoine Pittman yelled out for Tony to shoot, and he did, killing Tariq Kamisa instantly. Within hours, a tip led police to Tony Hicks and his friends, and they were all arrested. Tariq's father, Azim Kamisa, was notified by phone that his one and only son had been killed. Not long after that, he learned that it was a 14-year-old gang member who had did it. But almost immediately, Azim Kamisa began speaking out to the media.
It is easy to see my son was a victim of the 14-year-old gang member, but more difficult to see that the shooter is also a victim of our society.
Under the new California state law that had went into effect just 5 months earlier, Tony was tried as an adult. Tony Hicks pled guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to 25 years to life.
On January 21st, 1995, I shot and killed Tariq Kamisa, a person I didn't even know and who didn't do anything wrong to me. I'm sorry for the pain that I caused for Tariq's father, Mr. Kamisa.
He became the youngest person in California's history to be charged as an adult for murder. The 2 other juveniles involved were also tried in juvenile court. Neither received prison time. But 18-year-old Antoine Pittman was sentenced to life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Within a year of his son's death, Azim Kamisa started the Tariq Kamisa Foundation, with a mission to stop kids from killing kids. And in a move that shocked many who followed the case, Azim Khamisa forgave Tony Hicks for murdering his son. And he reached out to Tony's grandfather, Ples Felix, inviting him to join the Tariq Khamisa Foundation so that together they could help steer kids away from violence. Ples Felix accepted, and together they've traveled the country speaking to young people for almost 30 years. In 2019, Tony Hicks was released from prison after serving 24 years of his 25-year sentence. And there to welcome him home was one of his biggest supporters, Azim Khamisa, who had stayed in contact with Tony during his entire sentence and had sent letters to the parole board supporting his release.
Tony won parole. Wow.
In fact, years before Tony's release, Azim had invited Tony to volunteer at the foundation once he got out. And since then, Tony's been sharing his story, keeping kids from following in his footsteps. All of them working together to teach children compassion, forgiveness, and peacemaking. And to date, the Tariq Khamisa Foundation has reached over 2 million kids.